You will need to remove the front control arms to perform this work. Please follow the link provided at the end of this video for additional assistance with that task. This ball joint is shot. In the past, that meant you were looking at a very expensive repair because you had to replace the entire control arm. Well, not anymore. This video will show you how to replace the ball joint with a Rennbay ball joint replacement kit. The kit comes complete with everything you need to replace both front ball joints. Begin by turning the control arm over and scraping out all of the old epoxy from the bottom of the control arm indicated by the red arrow. With everything cleaned up, you can see the gap in the factory retaining ring, red arrow. Use a small drill bit. I used an 1/8 inch and drilled a relief hole at a 45-degree angle behind the retaining ring. You can use a pick or a common wood screw and insert it in the relief hole and gently pry the retaining ring outward, red arrow. Use a flathead screwdriver and pry the retaining ring out. Remove the old plate and spring from the control arm. Remove the old ball joint pin and clean the inside of the control arm. Turn the control arm over and remove the old boot and spring, red arrow. Make sure to give everything a good cleaning, making sure to get everything out of the retaining ring groove. Use the supplied grease pack and grease both the inside and outside of the upper bushing, red arrows. Insert the greased upper bushing into the control arm. You can use the plastic lower bushing, red arrow, to firmly press the upper bushing into place in the control arm. It is important that the upper bushing is pressed all the way into place in the control arm, red arrow. Use the supplied grease pack and grease the ball joint pin. Insert the ball joint pin into the control arm and upper bushing. Place the lower bushing into the control arm. Place the conical tension spring on top of the lower bushing with the wide end down. Insert the seal ring. Screw the grease fitting into the lower ball joint plate. Place the new retaining ring over the lower plate. You are going to use a press or a vise to compact the ball joint together so you can insert the retaining ring into the groove in the control arm. You need to place a socket or a deep nut enough to protect the grease fitting on one end, yellow arrow, and a deep socket, piece of PVC piping, or I used a couple of spacers from a bearing puller kit, green arrow, deep enough to clear the ball joint pin. With everything lined up in place, place it into a vise and compress it until the retaining ring will fit into the groove in the control arm. Use 2 flathead screwdrivers and work the new retaining ring into place in the control arm, yellow arrows. When you remove the control arm from the vise, use a flathead screwdriver and hammer and gently tap the retaining ring into the groove to make sure it is well seated, red arrow. Use a hand grease gun only and fill the ball joint until you feel hand pressure against the grease gun. Install the protective cap. Place grease on the top of the ball joint, red arrow. The ball joint should be stiff but able to move. Push the boot over the top of the ball joint until the spring clips on the top and bottom of the boot slip into their grooves, red arrows. Apply the included 2-stage epoxy to the area around the lower plate, retaining ring, and control arm. Use the grease pack or a clean screwdriver to mix up the epoxy. Allow the epoxy to dry and you are done. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.